This is one interview that I'm happy to do, especially after the stories we've been covering lately. This morning, I headed out to my old neighborhood to sit down with a representative from the Chicago Confederation of Clubs. The Chicago Confederation of Clubs is not a part of the National Coalition of Motorcyclists, or NCOM. Instead, the COC is one, I must say, is one of the most successful of all the confederations in the United States. The Chicago Confederation of Clubs, as you will hear during the interview, is made up of over 50 motorcycle clubs. The diversity of the clubs are as numerous as the nationalities that make up Chicago. I believe that this is unique among all of the Confederation of Clubs and makes Chicago stand out. One of the things many don't understand is that the Confederation of Clubs, or NCOM, is not what law enforcement says it is. It isn't a big crime ring that extorts street taxes from their member clubs. In contrary, it's an extended brotherhood of motorcycle clubs that work together for a common cause. My hope is a few things people will get out of this interview is the misconceptions of what a Confederation of Clubs is and what it's not. The true definition of brotherhood, whether you're a member of a motorcycle or an independent. The enormous amount of motorcycle club profiling each and every club faces. After the interview, I will give you my final thoughts on everything that we discuss. So let's get down to business, shall we?
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the live show. Today we got a great guest, representative from the Chicago Confederation of Clubs. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff today, something that you're really going to learn from. So I'm going to introduce our guest. This is Heimlich from the Chicago Confederation of Clubs. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad. Heinrich, representative of Chicago COC in Northern Illinois.
Rock and roll. And the reason why I'm so excited about talking to the Confederation is everybody knows we support a lot of motorcycle club rights through NCOM, through NCOC, MPP, and I think it's a big thing to actually have some representatives from Chi-Town, my hometown. So, first question I got is we did some coverage yesterday of, Psycho Silo, and we don't have to go into the actual establishment. What I want to talk about is how it's become so ordinary for these bars to put up no color signs. Why is that?
I think bikers and motorcycle club members as a whole become an easy target as far as be able to openly discriminate against. Due to various TV shows that I can't stand, Sons of Anarchy and use of stuff like that, bikers and motorcycle club members as a whole are kind of portrayed as villains or people that crime just generally is associated with, and that's just entirely untrue and not the case. I think it makes it easy for bar owners, and half the problem I really don't think has anything to do with the owners themselves. I believe it has to do with policing and political pressure put on by the towns that they're in to keep motorcycle clubs out, and they make it real easy to go to the bar owner and say, well, if you don't keep X, Y, and Z or these clubs out, we will take your licenses or not renew your licenses, and bar owners are put in a tough spot to have to say no colors allowed. It's a hard pill to swallow, and it's a tough one to fight when you're being discriminated against for simply coming into a bar like that, but one that needs to be addressed.
What does the COC specifically here in Chicago try to do to educate bar owners?
Specifically, especially the clubs that are in the areas. The COC from Chicago is COC of Chicago in Northern Illinois. So in each area of the city in Northern Illinois, there are different clubs in different areas. So we try to get the local clubs in that area to educate their owners and, so to speak, and talk with them and hopefully address any concerns that they may have. When it's an openly discriminated against, we do seek legal counsel if we have to try and resolve it. Most of the time, we can resolve it with a simple discussion with the bar owner, or if need be, the town itself. But sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not.
Now, with these no color policies, is it just for, say, 1%ers, support clubs, regular 99% clubs, or does it include hog, A-bait, Christian clubs?
Well, see, that's one of the things I have the biggest problem with. It doesn't matter, a club's a club. Ideally, you would hope that if they're in this lifestyle, and they came up in this lifestyle, that no matter who they are and who they're affiliated with and where they stand in the motorcycle community, that they believe in the same core values that a motorcycle club should operate under. I don't believe that it should be happening, or clubs should be lumped in, 1%er or yada, yada, yada. It affects all clubs equally, and the biggest problem I have with that is it's not treated equally. So if you take a club that is a full-fledged law enforcement club, and they're allowed in, but you have another club that's from another area and isn't a law enforcement club, and just a bunch of brothers that like to ride and have a good time, they're deemed as criminals and you aren't allowed in. So if you're going to actually enforce that, you should enforce it, period, and we find out most of the time that's just simply not the case. And typically, in a lot of the bars where this happens, there is some of these spring up clubs that aren't looked at as, because they're a law enforcement club, they're not looked at in the same light that another club is, and they're allowed and they're not. Well, that's where it becomes discrimination.
Right.
But
what recourse does the clubs have?
As far as?
Say you're going to a rally, and I know some rallies around the country, they try to write on the fence, no club colors.
Right.
But you see everybody else going there, like you said, you have Leo clubs going in there, but they want to keep you out of there.
Right.
The other clubs out of there. What recourse do you have legally?
It's a tough one to argue. We've tried on multiple levels, and there's only, like, when you actually want to legally go after somebody and it becomes a civil matter for a civil court, there's actually only set guidelines that you can discriminate, that you can call discrimination. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems is that we're having trouble, and elsewhere around the country is having trouble seeing that bikers as a whole, and let's be honest, I mean, this is a lifestyle, it is a culture upon itself. There's not a lot to say. Like, discrimination and laws against discrimination are based on, like, race, sex, sexual orientation, religion. You can't bar people legally for those reasons. But because you're a motorcycle club member or a member of any organization, there's not a lot to protect you from that. So that's some of the obstacles that battling that legally we're having.
Now, on the other side of the argument, we have people come at us all the time about, okay, well, it's the bar establishment's choice. Some clubs make it bad for other clubs. What do you say to something like that? As
far as it being the bar owner's choice, if who in their right mind, and for instance here in the COC, there's with over 50 clubs, and I'm not going to give a head count, but that's a large amount of bodies to have an event and have a successful event where that bar owner, that rally, that town benefits from whether it's bars, events, housing, food, you name it. Everybody benefits. As far for bar owners saying that, or people saying that it's bar owners doing it, well, I understand the other argument that they have, they're under pressure from the town to do it, and it's hard, it puts them in a very bad and peculiar spot to be able to argue with the town when the town's threatening openly or indirectly, well, we may not renew your license next year and put you out of business if you don't want to adhere to what that town wants. It puts them in a difficult spot, but at the same time, this is supposed to be a free country. I would hope that the owner men are still men. Sometimes you got to be able to stand up and actually say, that isn't right. It is a free country, and stand up not only for the bikers that they want you to keep out, but also for your own business. Who is the town to tell you who you can let into your own business? That's a little wrong in itself.
Well, you know what gets me is some of these bars, they started off real small.
Yes.
And it was club members, their associates that visited that bar that got it to grow. And next thing you know, they get at this pinnacle where they're like blown up and all kinds of business. I believe they're trying to live off of that image, but then all of a sudden, no, you can't come here.
Correct. And that's not right in any sense. And to be able to do that, especially when the people that you're turning against and barring from your establishment are the same people that are responsible for your business being successful, I mean, what a thank you. You know, it's not too long ago we were out riding, we went to a bar, and it's actually one of the, here in Chicago, you know, you got every diversity you can think of. And going down the street, we decided to stop at just a bar we've never been to, small little bar. It was in a little Irish community, a little Irish bar. We went in there, and they had like an authentic Irish band playing, right? Now, I have never seen an authentic Irish three-man band playing. By the end of the night, there's probably 6 patrons in. I mean, this bar is no bigger than this room, right? And probably 10 to 15 of us, and just having a good time. We're buying drinks for everybody at the bar. We're having shots. Within an hour, we've got this Irish band singing with Irish accents to David Allan Coe. So
Make old David proud.
We had a blast. I think we got out of there about 2 a.m., right? No problems, not one incident. The other patrons were great. The band was great. We had a blast. We got on our bikes and we rode and called it a night. Fast forward about 3 weeks. We could pull up to the bar. We figured we had such a good time last time. We'll just stop in and have a couple beers and be on our way. And as soon as we got to the door, it was, "I'm sorry, I can't allow colors in." I was like, "Are you kidding me? What did we spend last week when we were here? And we had a great time with your patrons and your bar. What did we make you, a couple grand in a few hours?" We had a great time. I don't understand the issue. Is your issue with bikers as a whole, or just motorcycle club members, or is it a personal thing against our particular club? And he tried to assure me that it wasn't because of either, and that he was getting pressure from the city of Chicago, that they were saying if he actually allowed them members in again. And this was done by local law enforcement that...
like they should speak in Chicago.
You may not have your liquor license when you go to reapply for it.
Right.
So it puts them in a tough spot, but at the same time, you know what? We're not the only ones that should be standing up. If you were that bar's business owner and we came to your establishment and in 3 hours you made a couple $1,000s, I would think that you'd probably want us back.
Hell yeah.
Probably about as often as we wanted to come. Especially if your patrons had a good time, everybody had a good time, your band made it probably double what they were just in tips. I would think that the business owner would want you there, and most business owners would absolutely agree to that. But when you get pressure put on you by local government, it puts them in a tough spot. I understand that, but you know what? It's time some of these bar establishments start sticking up for themselves as well, because these demands put on by local government and city officials and police departments is also hurting their business.
Now, do you think for the ones that ain't being threatened by law enforcement are putting up these no color signs, do you think they're contributing to motorcycle club profiling? Absolutely.
Indirectly, but absolutely. I don't think that they necessarily look at it that way, but they should, because they absolutely are contributing. And not only some of these bar owners, I mean, I've been riding around the scene. I'm sure you got bar owners that own the bar that you like to go to, and they're also your friend. And it's they need to realize that, you know, when somebody comes and tells you need to bar these people from your establishment, that'd be no different than me coming to you and saying, "Hey, you know what? Your cousin that's sitting on the couch, get him the hell out of here. It's your house." Who's anybody to say who you can allow into your own home?
Right.
Same with a business. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they absolutely are, and probably should start doing the right thing and standing up for themselves as well. If not for the community, in the motorcycle community, how about standing up for yourself?
Right, exactly. Before going on the motorcycle club profiling, which, you know, we cover extensively on the show, the Chicago Confederation of Clubs, you said, were made up of a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
How is the atmosphere? The brotherhood must be huge among the clubs, because you know, I've traveled the country, and Chicago is one that is real tight-knit compared to a lot of other ones.
It is. And as far as the atmosphere, that term, brotherhood, in this lifestyle in the motorcycle community, it stands for something. It means something. And in most cases, when you're talking about motorcycle clubs, what they would do for a brother or brotherhood is a lot easier if you just ask them what wouldn't they do. Brotherhood is something you believe in this culture. It's something you stand for, something you're willing to fight for. And that term brother is just something that's so loosely thrown around. It's thrown around like a greeting, like, hey, how's it going? Or, hey, man. It's thrown around way too loosely. But here in the COC in Chicago and Northern Illinois, every club, you would hope, would be basing their membership and their agenda on that simple term, brotherhood. And here in the COC, what COC stands for and what it is about is exactly that, biking and brotherhood. It's an external brotherhood to other clubs in your area that you are choosing to be a part of, an extension of your own family. Here in Chicago, it's exactly what it says, brotherhood, family.
Now, does COC Chicago accept Christian clubs, riding clubs?
Absolutely. We do accept clubs of all kinds. However, we just do not allow anybody to join without members' approval.
So it's the whole COC's approval?
The entire COC body gets an approval for a club to join. So if a club were to join, they would, how could you vote on somebody you didn't know? You know what I mean? So they would want to start, and would be openly welcome to start hanging around some of these other COC clubs so they can get a better feel for them, and these COC clubs can get a better feel for them as well.
Right. One thing that really burns my ass, if you will, you know, the internet's full of warriors out there, and you got a lot of the law enforcement. One thing I could never understand was when you were a biker, you never associated with law enforcement. There was always that line. And you'll get a lot of these people buying what law enforcement say, well, the COC or NCOM, you got to pay dues, you got to pay a street tax. That's fantasy. Am I correct?
That's not only a fantasy, it's an outright lie. This is based on brotherhood. You can't call yourself a brother by charging what you consider to be a brother. It's based on brotherhood. Absolutely not. As far as like you're talking about, I've heard the rumors as well as far as somebody has to pay a tithe or a shakedown. That's not what we're about. That's not what the COC is about. That's not what these 50 clubs are about. How could you have 50 clubs, over 50 clubs, standing together and being treated like that? The COC would not have lasted as long as it has, and would not have the honor that it does if that were happening. The only thing that could keep 50 clubs, think about it, how many personalities that is. Not only an individual club, but as a whole, and keep 50 guys all together, all moving together, all believing in the same thing, all standing righteously true to brotherhood under false pretenses or shitty pretenses like extorting somebody.
Right.
That does not happen, will not happen. We would not tolerate that happening.
Right. Now, COC, besides the brotherhood, you guys do a shit ton for the community. What's some of the, you know, the charity stuff that you guys do? How you get involved in the neighborhoods? You know, I always say on the show, I was like, you know what? If your block has a clubhouse, you're the safest around. You know, because clubs are always involved in the communities. There's been clubs out there during these protests out there protecting businesses and, you know, making sure that people were fed, the whole 9 yards.
As far as
you, I know you guys do toys for Tots.
Examples of what we're actually involved in.
I know another business that bites for Tots.
Sure. Some of the charities that we do support, one thing first and foremost is the COC of Chicago is affiliated with no other COC around other than our Southern Illinois COC. We're not affiliated with NCOM or anything alike. What we do believe in is absolutely us, the brotherhood between clubs and internally and externally. What we are in favor of supporting is exactly what you said, our communities, whether that's the individual clubs community or the motorcycle community here in Chicago as well. Some of the charity events we've been involved in is Toys for Tots. Toys for Tots Chicago, we are not involved in with the city directly. The Toys for Tots that we are involved in is up north and directly with the United States Marine Corps. We do not give them a second party that we have no idea where these toys are going. We take this to this party, we hand these toys and stack these toys to these Marines, and then we help them load them in their vehicles to go directly to a base. We want to ensure that they actually go where they're intended. And I'll give you an example. One of the reasons why we don't, and this is probably not known by many, one of the reasons why we don't support a Toys for Tots, say, in the city of Chicago's Toys for Tots, is because I was actually on the ride where we went one year, and everybody was requested, of course, to bring a toy, and you probably had about 200 to 300 bikes with toys strapped to these bikes, and 2 U-Haul trucks filled with toys. And when we got there, you want to talk about discrimination, what they told us was, we can't take these toys from all these motorcycle clubs because it's questionable about where the money to pay for them came from.
Motherfucker.
Tell that to the kid that didn't get anything. So instead what we did is we took all those toys, both those U-Hauls, and we drove them up north and hand-delivered them to the United States Marine Corps.
Man, that's messed up. Bites for Tots, can you talk about that?
Bites for Tots. Bites for Tots.
That one's real interesting to me.
Bites for Tots is a 2-part event, and it was actually last year and was very successful and was really awesome to see. It's actually, there are Southern COC in Southern Illinois. Every year for probably, I couldn't give you the exact year, but probably the last 15 to 20 years, has supported the small community in Peoria, Illinois. And what they do is every kid or parent that has a kid and has no means to get them something for Christmas, and whether that's they're struggling financially, whatever the reason is, they will take 3 choices of gifts from that kid, his top 3 choices. No matter what, those brothers down there get him his first choice every single time, no matter what the cost is. Now, we throw concert events with David Allan Cole and various other singers. We throw parties. We have an auction. And when I say we, I mean the Southern COC. And they have an auction to be able, you can imagine, you have kids, to buy presents for the kids, it gets damn expensive come Christmas.
Yeah.
You're broke. Whatever you want is off the fucking table. You're broke. So to be able to buy gifts for 500 kids and get them their first choice of gift, it takes a lot of money to fund that. So we throw various events to be able to support that and fund that. Then those brothers down there, they go out personally and go and buy. They spend half a year doing this, buy each individual gift. And then come close to Christmas, they as a whole get together and spend up to 2 weeks wrapping each individual gift and personalizing it to that kid. When the Christmas event actually comes around, there's a Santa and elves, and they hand deliver these gifts. And the Santa and the elves, these are all brothers. Now, these are some of the most heavily tattooed elves I've ever seen, but these are brothers. So I don't care how big and bad and tough you are, if you actually go and witness this and it doesn't bring a tear to your eye, I give you credit. You're a cold-hearted son of a bitch.
Now, Bites for Tots, you got a lot of dogs involved, the canines.
Bites for Tots was actually an event held to support those kids getting that Christmas, hence Bites for Tots. It was run in conjunction with PSA, which stands for Protection Sports Association, and it was run with a PSA-sanctioned club, the Midwest Misfits, out of Bourbonnais, and it was a trial for a PSA trial for titling dogs, specifically working dogs, whether it be, typically Dutch Shepherds, Malinois, working line German Shepherds, and it's a bite sport. And we ran that event, and we sold, took donations for tickets. We had raffles, various things like that, and all those proceeds went to the kids down in Florida. I think we raised over $3,000 for those kids. In a way, it was awesome. And one of the greatest parts of that event was not only were we well received by other spectators, but we were well received by the competitors, And a lot of these competitors are law enforcement. Some of them are police canines and some military canines, and most are civilian dogs. And one of the greatest things in the world was actually being able to not only hold the event, but if you've never seen that, it's something really to see. And to watch these kids in awe of what these dogs were doing was just awesome. I mean, afterwards, I had one brother go home and actually say, when I got home, my kid was in, they wear bite suits to protect themselves from the dogs and be able to, and this kid was in the front yard with a stick in his hand, and he was in his snowsuit, running through the yard screaming, and the brother pulled up in his truck, gets out of his truck, and says, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm a decoy." Coolest thing in the world. We had food, and we had a band there, we had food there, and it was a 3-day event. It was actually really something to see. But all of these brothers, the COC entirely from north and south, southern Illinois, came together to make that event successful. And to date, from what I understand, that is the largest PSA and working dog crowd that has ever assembled in one location for an event.
Are you going to have it again this year?
Hence the mask and this corona thing and everything going around. I would love to, and I'm hoping to. The only problem I might have is it takes a lot of time to be able to prep for that, and we're getting near fall.
Right.
So I'm definitely going to hope to, and if I do, I'll definitely let you know in hopes that you guys will support it.
I'll be over there.
Other things that we get involved in is various benefits for not only members' families, or latest things we've been talking about is military veterans are very near and dear to us in the COC. One of the things we'd like to do is actually go down to work. We're trying to work it out to where we can actually go down to a VA hospital, bring about as much cooking equipment as we can, cook 2 or 3 pigs, chickens, and burgers and everything else, and feed everybody there for one afternoon. If they can't come down to us, we'll take it up to them.
Right.
So
that's awesome stuff. Twisting it back to motorcycle club profiling, how concerned is the COC here in Chicago what's going on nationwide? It seems like the uptick in profiling clubs have went through the roof. Mm-hmm. You had one club on the West Coast who just got, the entire club got RICO'd, and they're trying to take their patch.
Insane, isn't it?
Yeah. It's in the 9th Circuit of Appeals right now. It's probably going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. But how crazy is a whole club getting RICO'd for the actions of a few 20 or 15 years ago?
That's insane. It's absolutely insane. And one of the rights you have in this country as an American and in this great country is to be able to assemble, and assemble where you choose to. And that's insane. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Well, there was down in Texas, because Texas is like the big hot spot right now, where a club member got pulled over. He had a legal CCW, or that's what Illinois calls them, but a regular carry card. And because he was wearing colors, they have this gang database down there. They charged him with a felony.
And instantly makes him illegal. That's crazy.
Right.
That's absolutely crazy. And again, your right to assemble, your right to be a part of whatever you choose to be a part of, shouldn't make you a criminal.
Right. Now, how do clubs go about fighting motorcycle club profiling?
As best we can. Specifically with us, we go legally, of course, and use counsel and retain counsel any chance we get. Again, some of the biggest problem that we're coming to see is, you know what, if you were of a different sexual orientation, or you were of a different religious group, or if you were a different skin color, or anything, you have no problem against being discriminated like that. But however, because you're a member of a motorcycle club, it seems like there's nothing in line to almost protect you from it. So it's not only here, but everywhere else around the country is having the same issue. Struggles. There's been very far and few wins, but there have been some for the motorcycle community as far as battling discrimination, because there's not a lot to base it off of, which needs to change.
Where do you think law enforcement, why do you think they profile as hard as they do? A couple days ago we did a video where they caught it. They were just circling in Pennsylvania 3 times, and the cop looked like he was 12 years old, but he said to the guy, well, you know, you're wearing those colors, you're a gang. It's like, what do they teach you in the police academy that you automatically assume this is a gang when it's a club?
That's a hard question for me to answer, because that would be a better one put to the other side, to actually law enforcement themselves. Why they choose to go that route, I have no idea. Clubs have always been clubs first, not gangs. Being in a club's about biking and brotherhood first and foremost, not street corners and dope and stupid nonsense. I have no idea what they base this on, and it's kind of different government agencies are. It's kind of a double standard. If how often you hear about a bad one or a rogue cop or
we
one
actually do the wall of shame every day now because of that.
And you got quite a bit on there, right?
Actually, for everything they claim that a motorcycle club member does, I can find 5 or 6 cops who did the same thing.
But from their perspective, they come right out and, you know what? 2 bad cops can't justify making everybody bad. And I agree with them. That can't, two bad apples can't. You can't target a whole organization over 2 bad apples. You shouldn't be able to. That's not right. Yet they'd have no problem doing it to us.
Right.
One incident, as far as like what you're talking about, is bars and profiling and no colors allowed signs being put up in front of establishments. Well, that's the same thing. If it even involved a motorcycle club member, you're talking about one incident. One incident means banning all 50 here in Chicago?
Right. With all that money coming in.
That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
Nuts.
And let's be honest, we are bikers, and where the whole world's changing, this has always been a world of men, a man's world.
Oh yeah.
And one of honor, and one of loyalty, one of integrity, one of courage, commitment, and above all else, brotherhood. I'm sorry, I'm a biker. If you insult me, expect to be insulted back. If you become confrontational, expect a confrontation back. How is that? I don't understand. In biker bars, is that a problem? What, biker bars don't have fights? What biker bar have you been to that did never have a fight?
Right.
So why would one, and I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but why would one incident dictate everybody to the whole, or everybody,
the bar owner
period?
Go to the club and say, hey, we had this. Clubs usually handle their own thing.
Listen, I'm no angel. I remember way back when I was a kid, I got in a bar fight, and it was nothing more than a bar fight. 2 guys, 2 in the morning at cleaner closing time, and in a quick scuffle. And I remember when it was over, the bar owner, I'd been going there for a couple of years, and a table that got broke. I remember just taking $500 out, putting on bar. I apologize about the table. That was good enough for them. But no, I'm not advocating brawls and fights, and I'm not advocating things like that happen. I'm just saying, if there even was an incident, how can you ban all? How can you even target all? I mean, if the clubs weren't there, what bars don't have a fight from time to time?
Right.
You can go to any bar in Chicago or any nightclub in Chicago and sit there on the curb, and you're going to watch one guy after another get thrown out of this bar into the street for no other reason than he got drunk and got out of line, and there was an incident. But you don't put a sign in front of the place saying no people allowed.
Right. What about these mass rallies? I know when I was down in Daytona, they had the no color. It was all over the place. And what really gets me is most of these big rallies were started by clubs. Right now, Sturgis is going after the Jack Pine Gypsies property. They make their entire city budget on that one rally.
The entire economy is built upon that rally. Same way, it's no different than Daytona is for the races and everything else. That their whole economy is built upon those events happening and the people that come to them. And like you said, started by motorcycle clubs, which, let's be honest, since motorcycle clubs started, it was clubs that started this lifestyle in the first place. And these weren't just run-of-the-mill people. Most of these people were combat veterans and soldiers, Marines, airmen, seamen, after being discharged, missing what they had, forming clubs to regain the brotherhood they felt in combat. And the biker, I don't even know what you want to say, the biker image is simply created by motorcycle clubs. Right down to that black leather jacket you wear was something that motorcycle clubs started. The biker image has been based on motorcycle clubs, and they profit off of this. So then, I mean, what a thank you to turn around and say, you're not welcome.
Right. Harley Davidson does that
Harley
too.
Davidson is a prime example. Harley Davidson is a prime example of completely...
What do you think about their problems going on right now? Their sales are in the toilet.
Well, you know what? When
the last
whether people
CEO
accept it or
came out
not,
and said that it didn't matter. It was made in the USA.
Like I said, when when clubs first came out, that's where their business started. And with these events, that's where this business started. And that's what makes your events successful. So how can you have a biker event without bikers? How can Harley Davidson, how can you keep taking advantage of bikers for no reason and have them not just, no, the hell with you. They're now Harley Davidson is no longer the only name in the game.
Yeah, you got India and some other ones out there. But you mentioned something that was good where you say you can't hold all cops responsible for certain individuals. We argue all the time, you know, to the chagrin of a lot of haters out there, that the stuff you're seeing in the news that we cover all the time, that stuff ain't club sanctioned. That's just people out there doing their own damn thing. The media wants to put clubs out there like you're some kind of gangsters. And it's like, have you seen some club members? They can't even pay dues, man. How they gangsters?
Most of these guys are blue-collar guys. And like you said, especially in today's economy, a lot of them hard up and laid off, or the work's not available and having a hard time just feeding their families. So where they get... I laugh when I hear this stuff, especially when I see these stupid gangland episodes where they're saying, you know, bucket loads of money coming in for this and that, and it's like, man, I work every day. Right. I get up and go to a job every day to pay for my mortgage and my car that I have, and it's insane. How
hard have you guys had to fight that image that Kurt Sutter put out from the Sons of Anarchy and this stupid Mayans thing?
Well, I hate that show. The sad part is how many people actually buy into that crap. Where, if you've ever actually watched the show, where that's what people actually believe happens in the motorcycle community. But where could you do that?
Yeah, Jeff Tyler was a serial killer.
You can't just ride around shooting people all over town. Right. You can't just go creating havoc everywhere you go. Motorcycle clubs aren't built on that. They're not. Motorcycle clubs are first and foremost built in biking brotherhood. That's what they're about.
Well, you know, I think that show sprang up, we call them pop-up clubs. They sprang out a lot of them, and they caused trouble for the actual legit motorcycle clubs. You know, we have the debates all the time on the show about protocol. We fight with people because of protocol. But I think it's there because the larger clubs don't want all that attention that these idiots, you know, bring. You know, you have a pop-up club member. We've been talking about one out in Pennsylvania where it really gave the club scene out there a black eye after what happened. That was Keith Palumbo's story. But I think, you know, am I right? That's what protocol does, is keep these people where, you know, you're not causing problems for, say, 50 clubs in COC.
It does. And this is a lifestyle, and it's one that's been around for a very long time, and that's why I say it is the culture. We do have one, and there are, like any other cultures, there are things you do and things you don't do. And when somebody just watches a TV show and decides I'm going to put on a patch and be a weekend warrior, and I'm going to do what I want because that's what he thinks is cool and wants to be, well, there's a lot to learn in this community, and you just don't get to do whatever you want to do. It's not about you. It's about the club. It's about your brothers. It's about brotherhood. All for one and one for all. What you do reflects upon your club. And in this case that you're talking about, and other cases like it, what you do reflects upon all clubs.
Because regular citizens, they don't know, hey, they seen this guy doing something. They don't know if it's the dominant. They don't know any of that stuff. And it brings the heat.
It does. And it turns it up. And it's also leads to numerous misconceptions about motorcycle clubs. It's very damaging. So there are, like I said, here in the COC, over 50 clubs in the Chicagoland and Northern Illinois area. You mean to tell me you can't find one of them you fit in? Or maybe you just want to be handed something rather than earn it through a probationary period and learning what it takes to be a member of that club. And it's
I never
everybody
understood
wants
pop-ups.
something. Everybody
wouldn't
wants
you wanna
something
go
for nothing.
Do it the right way and go party with everybody instead of sitting, because most of them sit in their backyards.
Or actually have something on your back that actually means something that guys actually work for. That the club has a honorable legacy, and be a part of that. The guys that just want to throw something on your back just to fucking do it. I mean, in the motorcycle community, whether you're a motorcycle club member or a civilian biker, they find them laughable. And it's for no reason. They know absolutely nothing. They've earned absolutely nothing. And this is not something just cool to do on the weekend. Being a motorcycle club member is 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. You are your brother's keeper.
Okay. Chicago is like one of the, next to New York, but you know, we won't bust on New York, is one of the most multicultural places in the world.
By far. By far.
Does COC have that whole spectrum of different cultures in there?
Absolutely. I mean, as far as well, you name it. In the COC, we have clubs that we have various degree of Hispanic clubs. We have Puerto Rican clubs, we have Mexican clubs, we have white clubs, Polish clubs, black clubs, you name it, we have it. And one of the things that I find really awe-inspiring about the COC, and when you talk about the membership's diversity, is where else could you have guys that grew up not only in different backgrounds as far as race, but different backgrounds in the street when they were kids, or different backgrounds in just life, period. And then you stagger that by different generations, and all coming together for the same belief, same cause, all believing in brotherhood, and all those issues they grew up and dealt with, or what they believed before they joined that club, all disappear.
Okay.
Brotherhood's a powerful thing.
It is, if it's done right. Like
if it's
you said,
done right.
It's thrown around all the time. We see it all the time.
But clubs that just pop up and throw something on their back, well, you didn't didn't do anything to earn that. So why in the world would you respect it? And that's the problem. How could you know brotherhood without ever seeing it?
Right.
So, which is why I take offense to people so loosely throwing that term, hey, brother, around. Hey, brotherhood, brother is, people call another man your brother. And especially when you're talking about a man from one club to another man in another club and calling brother, that's a pretty significant and powerful thing.
Right. Well, last two questions. What would you say to the younger kids coming up? You know, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds that want to live this lifestyle. How would you get them to, you know, bring them up right? Because it seems one of the biggest issues that the biker community has is the younger generations. I'm sure it happened with us with the old timers, but we had the Vietnam vets teach us, you know.
Well, one of the things I always liked about our veterans and our troops serving, we're huge supporters of our veterans and our troops. The one thing I love about them the most, they understand discipline, they understand honor, they understand chain of command, they understand respect, they understand authority, they understand brotherhood.
They fought in foxholes.
Exactly. So like what you're saying, you were coming from Vietnam vets. These are guys that already had these principles that we're able to show you. So the same applies to today. We've got several veterans standing in this room from our military, and those guys are still responsible in instilling the values into new members as well. So
why do you think with the profiling, if they know, you know, especially if there's one veteran and then you got the veteran, why do you think, you know, are they scared of clubs? Are they scared of the organization?
You're talking about as far as local governments and things like that?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think we make an easy target and an easy way to make a name for yourself. And look at these criminals we got here, and what we're an election point. Look at what we're going to do to stop them, to make the average civilian feel safe. Look at what we're going to keep out, because these guys are nothing but this, 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 and this. And it's entirely untrue, but they use it as a punchline for their election.
Okay. Well, last question. do you guys have events that are open to the public, like open houses, parties?
We do have parties and things like that, but just like, what's the easiest way I can put this? If you had a party at your house inviting friends and family over to celebrate your new grandbaby, you wouldn't let a stranger walk through your... You wouldn't let...
Twins.
But you wouldn't allow a stranger to walk through your living room. So you might not have a problem with the guy, and he'd be more than welcome after you got to know him.
All right, okay. Now, do, you know, well, what was it supposed to... This is the last question here. For those who actually want to get to know a club, how do they do it?
The old-fashioned way. Go and talk to them.
How would do they go see you in a bar? Do they go introduce themselves? How do they?
Absolutely. So, like I said, this lifestyle and culture has been built by men of integrity, honor. Who wouldn't, if somebody walked up and said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm so and so," shake their hand and say, "Well, I'm so and so. What do you want?"
Rock on.
It's just as easy as that. Start a conversation.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate having you on the show. This has been awesome. Hopefully it's been informative for all of you guys out there. If you got questions, you guys can always send them in to me. I'll get them to the right people if you're not jackasses about it. Don't forget to go over to Bagger Syndicate Cycle. That's where I get all my hats from. They're off on the East Coast, Buffalo. And with that, I'll see you in the next segment.
That was a hell of an interview, and I'd like to thank the Chicago Confederation of Clubs as well as the club that opened up their clubhouse for the interview. One thing that you should take out of this whole thing is don't go to the internet for your advice on clubs. Go directly to them. The representative from the Confederation of Clubs, he did a perfect job in explaining, you know, protocol, the motorcycle club profiling, the club colors thing in bars. That's the type of advice you need. The only way you're going to learn is to go to clubs themselves. Yes, it's all right going on the internet, hearing about this protocol, that protocol. But like I always say, it's always local, man. What happens on the East Coast don't happen in the Midwest or on the West Coast. You know, you get a little idea of, you know, what's behind everything. But until you get off that computer, go to a club event or just go up to a club member and shake his hand. You're not going to really understand how everything works. Another thing that I really got out of the interview is just how much Leo isn't trained when it comes to motorcycle clubs. Actually, they're trained wrong if you really think about it from the get-go. We seen the one profiling video in one of the episodes before this where the cops were circling and circling and circling, and then finally one of the club members just went right up to him and said, "Hey, this is what's up." And the cop, you know, again, looked like 12 freaking years old, looks at him, "Well, you're a gang, aren't you?" You know what? Cops have so much more to worry about than motorcycle club members. Motorcycle club members are mostly blue collar. They go to work just like you and I every morning to provide for their families. For law enforcement to go and label a lot of the big clubs criminal gangs because of what a few individuals do is out of line. The wall of shame here on Insane Throttle's Biker News Show. For everything they claim that a 1%er does, I can show you 4 cops doing the same thing. You know, one of the big differences is the cops, man, you guys are freaks. You always into that sexual crimes and all that bull. You know, you're just freaks. You know, but the other stuff you really do see is the abuse. The abuse of an oath that they took to protect and serve the community. It doesn't mean, that oath doesn't say, "Hey, I'm a god and, you know, you got to listen to me, you know, your civil rights, you know, those are pushed to the corner." It doesn't say that. Motorcycle clubs deal with that on a daily basis. If you're wearing a patch, you're always on Leo's radar. That's why, I get angry with these bars. Yeah, some of them get pressure from, the local townships and stuff. But what does that say to your loyalty to your patrons? Don't you think you should get on the line with a lawyer and say, hey, the city is getting involved in my business. It's costing me money. These people haven't done anything wrong. No, most won't do it. Instead, they'll go up and throw that no colors allowed policy up on their doors. And many people come back and say, well, it's their business, they just don't want no problems. Come on, there's a million ways to fix that. A million ways. Work with the clubs. I guarantee if you're a bar owner working with the clubs, you guys can figure something out. Just don't go and throw a color sign up on your door because you're contributing to motorcycle club profiling. And what is also funny is, like I talked about in the interview, it is usually the club members and their supporters that take a little dyed bar and put it on the map. So what kind of loyalty is it really to, go against the ones that put you on that map? It just doesn't make no sense to me. But again, we live in a corporate society where money is everything and loyalty to customers is just an afterthought. We talked about Psycho Silo. We've mentioned them in a biker news segment coming up. We're going to be talking about somebody who works with promoting stuff that left a comment on her page. And, it just struck me because if you look at some of these profiles, you'll always see one thing. They're usually a Leo supporter. But they'll go out there and make their money off the backs of motorcycle clubs. Enough's enough. If you want to ride with a club, fine. Even if you're an independent, fine. But at least stand behind each other. I'm glad if you went through this interview from beginning to end. That way you got to hear from them directly how it is out there when it comes to profiling. You got to hear the community service they did. And better yet, you heard that fantasy that Leo put out there, all their supporters, all these freaking people that, have a bad taste in their mouths for motorcycle clubs about confederations. No, they do not tax people. That's one of the biggest things that was spread that's a lie. They don't do that to each other. And finally, you got to learn what brotherhood's supposed to be about. You have over 50 clubs in the Chicagoland area, all getting together, all partying, having fun, coming together for common causes. That's one thing that you pop-up clubs should really think about. Do it the right way. In Chicago, there's so many damn clubs out there, you don't even need to start your own club. And like the representative from the Confederation said, you just wanted something handed to you. No, go out there, earn it. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be a part of something bigger than yourself. You're going to get there and meet all kinds of freaking people. It just takes doing it the right way. Because again, why start your own club? Well, most are going to do it because they don't want to go through prospect or the probate period, whatever way the club does it. My argument is that is actually a great period in your journey towards a patch. You get to learn from the older guys that have been in the lifestyle forever, especially the Vietnam Air Vet guys. Yeah, they're a little up there in age, but they still got a lot of teaching to do. So why go out there and jeopardize that by starting your own club? Because, the people within the club community, if they see that, well, you're not going to get the respect. You can go out there on the internet, especially, I see it all the damn time, claiming, well, nobody's going to take this, nobody's going to tell me what to do. in actuality, man, you're weak. And the reason why you're weak is you're not going through a traditional process. Do you know why a lot of motorcycle clubs get angry with pop-up clubs? It's because they went through all the traditional processes. They worked for what they're wearing. You didn't. All you did was go to an embroidery shop with a design, and the next thing you know, you got colors. How is that working for it? How is that putting in the work for the reputation of your club? It's not that hard to get introduced to the scene. You just go up to a club member and say, hey, introduce yourself and stuff. It's that easy. The process takes, time. And time is what it is because people want to get to know you. It's just like trying to invite somebody, like he said during a house party that you don't know. It's as simple as going up there and asking. And again, I get it. There's a lot of people talking about protocol or this and that. Well, I always said get it from the bigger 1%er clubs because a lot of them been around since the 30s, 40s, 50s. You got people out there talking with clubs only been around 5 or 6 years. They don't know nothing. They don't know how this real scene works. They only been around 5 freaking years or 10 years. That ain't nothing in the time of a motorcycle club. Actually, most clubs don't last 5 years that just pop up. They don't even last the 1 year. So why would you start taking advice from people that aren't involved in clubs that have been around decades? Decades and decades, because you know what? They went through the trial and error to perfect it. And most of them will tell you that it's not yet perfected yet. So for your younger guys, yeah, it's pretty cool watching stuff on the internet. That's why we do biker news, man. That's why I don't really like getting into any of that stuff because it's different all over the damn place. And basically, it's opinions. And we all know what opinions are. Everybody has an asshole, man. That's about it. That's all they are is opinion. Don't take it as gospel. If you think you're learning something, you're really not. Because you might be hearing something on the internet, but on the street, it's totally different. So hopefully you got a lot out of this segment. Again, thanks to the Confederation for everything, for the advice, for all the knowledge that you put out there for everybody, for the listeners. And with that, guys, really appreciate everything. Don't forget to share this video on your social media, and you can listen to its replay over on Spotify, iTunes, and all that good stuff. With that, I'll talk to you later, guys. Have a good one.
I say goodbye, vamoose, adios, ciao, so long, get your hat jacked.
#1 internet biker radio show is now available on Spotify and all major platforms, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, and more. Don't forget to become a subscriber on any one of these platforms so you can be notified right away when our weekly episode is uploaded so you never miss an episode.
Hi, this is James Hollywood Machikari. Join our YouTube channel and get Motorcycle Madhouse and tons of videos related to the bikers. Join now by subscribing for free and become part of the Throttle today. Always free and always entertaining. Don't forget to visit us at www.harleyliberty.com for your daily biker news. Rock out.